Welcome back to the commentary booth. I'm Kill2, with me Michael Bolton. We now have -10 versus Against All Authorities. -10 on your left in the red, fielding a Claymore, a Lachesis, a Guardian, a Curse, a Hugin, a Rapier, 2 Purifiers, a Saber, and a Dramiel.
And on your right, in blue, we have Against All Authorities with a Hurricane, 2 Slipners, a Cyclone, a Scimitar, a Hugin, and 3 Manticores.
To talk about ranges at the start, it looks like the Against All Authorities team has come in at a lot of different ranges. Right on the beacon, we have, of course, the Slipners, the Hurricane, and the Cyclone. Behind them, the Hugin, a couple 20k away maybe. And then after that, the Stealth Bombers and the Scimitar. Whereas the, whatever they are, Red 10, what are they? -10 team.
10.
Have all warped in at the same range, 50k from the beacon. So there's a good 50k between most of the -10 team and all of the AAA team. And we are underway, so here we go.
Yeah, that -10 team, a lot of recons on that team, a surprising amount, whereas Against All Authorities is shown to go with some straight-up Minmatar DPS. Damage is coming into a Saber on the -10 team, and he is just about to go down if they land another volley on him.
It is actually funny the way this is going down. The Saber taking damage, obviously, right now. -10 clearly going for kind of a control setup here. They're trying to really dictate the match. I'm sure there's a lot of damps. We see a lot of E-War effects across the field. And, of course, a lot of webs between the Hugin and the Rapier. Cap neutralization and tracking disruption. There should be just tons and tons of E-War. They're trying to control the match. But that's hard. They've run into a fast kind of in-your-face team. And there's damage on both sides. It's going to be, I think this match is going to be decided in the early stages because of the nature of the -10 team.
Yeah, and it looks like damage is being split amongst a lot of the -10 team, whereas that Hurricane is just about to exit shield and begin taking armor damage. And there it goes. The split damage is very confusing for me on the -10. It looks like that Against All Authorities just can't deliver concentrated damage with all that recon on the field.
Right, that's exactly it, Michael Bolton. There's just too much E-War on the field for them to really have control over what they're shooting at. It's going to be whatever's close enough for them to lock. In a lot of cases, that's going to be these, the Saber, the Dramiel. We did lose 1 Stealth Bomber, and there we just lost the first Battlecruiser on the Against All Authorities side. So still a lot of damage being split coming from the Against All Authorities team, like we were just saying, because of all the E-War. It looks like the Curse is actually taking the heaviest bit of it right now.
Yeah, the Curse is taking quite heavy damage quite quickly, but of course it's armor tanked. And the Hugin is maybe entering armor soon, but it looks like they've switched almost all their damage over to the Curse.
I want to let everyone know that there is actually another Manticore on the Against All Authorities team. I'm pretty sure it's Michael Bolton's fault that it's not locked right now, but it is there, and I will let you guys know if it takes any damage or dies. Right now, still a lot of damage split, though. The Bombers look safe for AAA. The Bombers not so safe for -10, but still holding. So right now we're kind of in a deadlock, but don't worry about this continuing to be deadlocked. This is a really volatile matchup where someone running out of cap, someone managing to get a lock can flip this real fast. And actually a Cyclone on the AAA side now taking a lot of damage. Yeah,
that Cyclone's going down pretty quickly. I'm not sure if that Scimitar is able to deliver those reps. There's so much E-War and so much cap warfare coming from that Curse that it's going to be very tough for this Against All Authorities team. They may just get chipped away here.
Yeah, I think that's real likely. You guys are looking at this, Cyclone or whatever it was as it goes down, shaped like a train. But I'm looking at this Scimitar for Against All Authorities, and he's got a lot of distance from the fight, and he's just not able to do anything. He has no lock. There's no remote reps active, and he's not even turning around. So I don't know if it's jams or cap, but it looks to me like damps, and he's not really concerned about it. He's just keeping his distance. There is still some damage coming out of the AAA team, that Curse hovering in armor, but keep in mind, of course, the -10 team armor tanked. So they're looking pretty comfortable right now, whereas the AAA team continuing to sort of get, eroded away.
Yeah, it's very strange that only now is some damage coming into those 3 AAA Manticores. Those Manticores deliver a lot of DPS with very little tank, and they've only just now decided to put some DPS onto them.
Well, the trouble with a ship like that is it's going to have a hard time dealing with the E-War. It only takes a couple damps to make these Manticores have to come in a lot more, close to the fight than they want to be, and at that point they start taking damage. But there is at least some missiles coming out of them, but really not enough to put any pressure on the -10 tank. The Curse taking a bit of damage, but the Guardian looks like it's not having too much trouble recovering those. We did lose a Manticore. It was one of the ones you can see. One of the other Manticores, the one you can't see, is actually about to enter armor. So not looking good for AAA.
Yeah, no. AAA, I think they may have been looking to field a different setup. Unfortunately, that original setup, few too many points. So they may have had to alter their setups on the fly, and that is not ideal.
Yeah, my guess is they had an extra bomber. I don't know how many points that cost, but that seems likely with a setup like this that they just accidentally told 2 people to bring a ship like that. I doubt it was something real pivotal and big, but I guess we don't have point totals, so I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, exactly. Almost no damage being delivered to the -10 team. They're all armored tank, and none of them have any armor damage on the field. Then the Yugen is in 10% shield, and the Manticore is quickly dropping.
Yeah, -10 actually has a total stranglehold on this match, and they deserve a lot of credit. One thing I was talking to the super genius Ravy that you'll get to hear from later about is that a team like this takes a lot of skill to fly. They needed a lot of coordination to make sure the damps were in the places they need to be. We just lost the last Manticore, by the way, for AAA. So just the 4 ships on the field now that you can see. But it takes a lot of practice, a lot of coordination to make a setup like the one -10 has fielded to work. If you double up webs in a place you shouldn't, or double up damps in a place you shouldn't, or don't get them out to begin with, or miscalculate, a direction or a range you need to be at, the whole setup can fall apart. And they've really done a good job here of just getting this sort of lockdown that they were going for in action pretty early. And from that point, AAA is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, no, exactly. The -10 team is really in a position where they don't have a tremendous amount of DPS, but they really took a real risk. If they had come against like a drone-heavy team where they couldn't really have controlled the match so carefully and so precisely, then it would have been very difficult for them. But they luckily ran into these Slipnirs and these Cyclones where they know what the engagement range is. The Slipnirs fly very simply, and they can sort of very appropriately treat each ship as it needs to be treated.
I mean, I think that potentially if you knew you were up against a control setup like this, there's things that maybe would be better, but at the same time, I don't think a speed setup, one with a lot of battle cruisers and a lot of webs and speed links or whatever, is going to be the easiest thing for a control setup to deal with. A lot of the time, if a setup like AAA's is able to pounce early and get a ton of DPS set up before that kind of controlled situation can be established, the speed setup is really solid. In this case, it didn't work, and maybe it's because, like Shadu was alluding to, they didn't have the amount of preparation or the amount of pilots they usually would to make it as effective as possible, but I don't think it's a terrible setup. All things being equal at the beginning of the match, I don't think it looks like a speed setup really is the worst thing you could have against a setup like what -10 has brought.
Well, I think the thing about -10 setup is that if they lose any one of those recons,
right,
it suddenly becomes very difficult for them to maintain that control.
Yeah, it falls apart quick. That's absolutely true. So as we're babbling in the style of Zastro, we did lose a Scimitar. So now we only have 3 ships left, 2 Slipners and a Hugin left for AAA, and pretty much everything left for -10. They are, of course, missing a Purifier, I believe. Purifier,
I believe it was a Purifier, yes. Yeah, this is the most convincing victory so far.
Right.
By a wide margin.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, in a way, in a tournament where just making sure you get points is going to be really pivotal in these group stages, it's a bit risky to bring a setup like what -10 brought. If they would have gotten blown out by a speed setup or, your magic drone setup or whatever it happened to be, they wouldn't have had anything to do about it. They would have lost 2 ships, and that would have been kind of it. They would have probably not killed much else because they just don't have quite as much damage, quite as much just sort of in-your-face power as the Tempest setups or the Slipner setups do to just make sure they can take stuff off the field.
Yeah, that's very true. Looks like this Slipner is about to go down, and there it goes, leaving only 1 Slipner and 1 Hugin left for the AAA team. But there's only 1 minute and 30 seconds left in the match. So if that Hugin and that Slipner don't go down quick enough, one of them might be able to survive.
Which would mean almost nothing.
Yeah, but every point counts.
It's true. But the thing about the way this tournament's set up is it doesn't count for AAA. They don't gain anything point-wise by making sure they still have ships on the field. But -10 is hurt, and they are in the same group. So potentially, if later rounds, AAA is able to wipe out 2 teams, it may come back that they're actually ahead of -10 because -10 couldn't finish them off. This is all a little unlikely.
This is far too advanced for me. I am just a simple Test Alliance member. You are the lead PvP expert. This is all for you right here. 45 seconds left in the match, and that Slipner just goes down.
Is it? Am I crazy, or are there some ships missing from the -10 side? There a lot of ships missing from the left side. 2 ships up top. 2 boundary violations, I've been told.
Oh.
So it looks like AAA is actually going to get away from this fight with a few points, thanks to maybe not paying attention, maybe not caring, but that was a couple of recons. Yeah, it looks like... shoot, I don't know. I wasn't paying any attention. There were certainly some ships there.
This is what happens when you put me in a booth. I just distract the lead PvP expert. Those boundary violations really giving AAA a chance later on. It might be interesting to see whether those boundary violations were on purpose.
Right. That's something that we're probably going to wind up talking about more and more. That's the end of the match, by the way. It is getting called before this Hugin dies, so that's going to finish it off. But we do need to talk about, at some point, intentionally losing ships and how that's going to affect the meta game in this new group format. But with that, we'll send it back to the studs in the studio.